Welcome to the Wealth Rebel Show. I am your host, Emma Wright, and today I'm introducing someone really special to me and back to the show, the person who is going to be a brand new quarterly feature for the show for you guys, because I know you're going to love her as much as I do. So, Lauren LePley is an international authority in the world of health and wellness. Right. Lauren came into my world like 4 years ago, and I think it's 4 years ago. And you can learn more about that in the conversation that we had when I relaunched my show on the 18th of September, which Lauren supported me wholeheartedly on. And I shared that conversation a few weeks ago. So go and check it out if you haven't. But Lauren and I connect really deeply on our shared love of what wealth really is at a super deep level. And Lauren has been really instrumental in my own wealth transformation. I hide no secrets about my own traumas, my own experiences. And Lauren is like the person who has really instrumentally supported me in healing myself and working on the things and raising my awareness to all the things we're going to talk about today. And also was instrumental in creating one of my first tools, the Wheel of Wealth. I talked about that in the first show. Okay. So Lauren is honestly a pillar of light in this dark world. And it is a dark world of health and wellness, because I think there's a lot of things that people don't know about health and well-being. And Lauren is one of the few pillars of light. She stands behind and supports others to share their light. She's been doing this for years in this community where, she supports many of the people that you see out there doing this work. And it is time for Lauren to shine and share her voice, because quite frankly, what Lauren doesn't know about, okay, I was trying to list some of this, Lauren: peak performance in business, nutrition that supports peak performance, somatic healing like soma, some of the techniques for these healing modalities. We were just talking about this offline, the impact of trauma, what actually trauma is and what it isn't, true plant-based diet. We've got vegan. What I've learned about nutrition and the alkaline life from you is just been mind-blowing, which all comes into your own method, the Aliafia way, which I know is constantly evolving as well, just like you are this beautiful flower that's evolving. Like, oh my God, the things that you know are just incredible, and your knowledge is profound, and the way that you and I flow together in this beautiful world of wealth and health for me is really beautiful. And I feel that the amazing souls who follow me here are going to love bringing this regular segment to the show. So today, we're going to be focusing on the kind of topic of wealth and health, because this is the first one, right, babes? So we're going to focus on wealth and health, and we're going to dive into trauma, and we're going to dive into your take on this, because this is your voice in the show, and then I'm going to add my own little elphisms as we go along, right? Before we do that, I want to just quickly say, before we dive into this amazing conversation with Lauren, I want to just add that Lauren is working in partnership with me in the Star Mastery School in 2025. Anyone who comes into the Mastery School will get group coaching with Lauren live. And that's going to be all about, the whole purpose of this is that we work on our wealth, but we need to heal and work on our health, and the two are not mutually exclusive, right? So if you want to be a part of our world, all of the links to Lauren are below. You can connect with Lauren at any stage. You can come into the Plant Cafe. I'm usually hanging out there. So many of her amazing connections are hanging out there, having coffee and loving their lives, right? Or you can come into the Mastery School for £74 a month for 12 months and work with both me and Lauren for the next 12 months in 2025. So without further ado, welcome Lauren to this segment of the Wealth Rebel Show, Wealth and Health.
Oh my goodness. Hello. What an introduction. I'm going to have to find a way to live up to that.
You just do it, just natural. It's just 100% natural. You don't need to do anything different.
Oh, thank you ever so much. It was really emotional listening to you speak actually about some of the things that I do. And I'm very grateful for you in my world as well on so many levels. And I'm really, really chuffed to be here, to be able to partner with you, looking forward into 2025 on these things and so many more things to come. It's such an exciting time.
It really is. I feel like the energy in the world is shifting right now. And for me, partnerships are just more than, we think of a partner as like a love that, the person we're going to spend the love of our life, the one, right? And for me, friendship and business, it's just not separate. It's just all one thing. And that's what makes my life really wealthy is being around people that I literally can't wait to. I'm like, okay, get up in the morning. When am I going to see Lauren? I need to go into the pint cafe. I show up, I have my waffles, or Harry has his waffles, and I know that I've been fed, I've been nourished deeply in my soul because you will just say something, and I'll be like, wow, did Lauren just say that? And it changes my day. And I do believe, I know we're going off on a tangent here, but this is me, this is my brain, right? I do believe that the people that you hang around with are so, so important. And if you're hanging around with people that do not nourish your soul, and that's the food we put in, and the conversations we put in, the knowledge we put in, the energy we put in, that's one of the biggest ways that we're going wrong. And so, yeah, 2025 is going to be epic.
Absolutely. Honestly, there can be a whole episode on relationships and those empowered connections and who they should be with and actually who they shouldn't be with, because, both are really important factors. But honestly, that is a whole episode in itself. We can
Let's do
come.
that. Let's do that next time. I've written it down. I'm going to be writing down these notes. And if anyone's listening to the show and you want to hear anything that Lauren and I bring up here, please drop it in the comments. We will see it and our messages, and we will bring that conversation to you guys. So, the first kind of topic that I want to dive into, because I think this really helps us to kind of share what it is that we're trying to get out of this segment of the show, is what is your take of wealth and health? How do the two interact? I see it as obviously the wealth formula that you picked, that it's one of the pillars of wealth, well-being, energy, abundance, lifestyle, time, and health. Tell me what your connection to this whole conversation is.
Well, I feel that they are so intrinsically linked that they are literally the same thing. I think to be wealthy is to have health and to feel health, and on from all angles, and to be healthy you need to have that sense of wealth. um just the complete embodiment of both is about you as your unique human feeling satisfied, feeling comforted, feeling safe and supported in all that you do, in to such a degree that you're able to do the best for yourself and the others around you. Therefore, those around you do it for themselves and those around them, which comes back to you. So it's a. I'm going to bring this in here. This is all the top of my head. This is like the figure of eight. This is your eight here, and that energy just goes back and forth, and it looks around and covers that support and the health and the feeling of wealth, of success, of it's a feeling, and you can only have that feeling if you do the inner and the outer work.
Oh, I 100% agree. It's the feeling, when you feel into every part of you and you own every part of you, you are wealthy, right? And that feeling has to be good. And if that feeling isn't good, if we feel into some part of us, and that's when we have disease, right? We have that disease, and it's because our health hasn't been the focus. I love what you said there about you, right? You are the center of your universe, your whole body. And so your health is every part of you. I love that. I always think of things in a different way when I speak to you because you really shine that light and get me thinking and challenging how I really connect with all of the things that you're talking about, and that embodiment. We talked about safety, right? If when we don't feel safe in our lives, we can't really embody ourselves. And then I believe that's when we neglect our health. Tell me a little bit more about how you feel about safety, because this has come up a lot recently, hasn't it?
It has. We talk about this a lot. So when you feel safe, you can't feel overwhelmed. When you feel safe, you can't feel like that you're in danger. When you are safe, you are in control. So therefore, being in control enables you to do so much more because everything is a rational thought. This is where we go in. This is a response mechanism and not a reactive part of us. We all have both elements right there, but being in control allows us to make choice. And that enables us ultimately, with all the fragments of everything, to collectively to be safe. Yeah, so honestly, the safety part of health is paramount. You can't have complete health if you do not feel safe.
And I think that's one of the challenges we have in such a negative world. Literally, and this is why I was saying, when you hang around with people, all they do is moan and or like stress about things and kind of focus on what they're, the cup half full. Oh, this is really bad. And I'm one of those people that walks into a room. I'm like my energy. I did the Carl Jungian energy quadrant, and I'm a sunshine person. So I'm that annoying person that walks in and goes, yeah, everything's great, even if it's really not, because I can't help it. I see things from a higher perspective always. Doesn't mean that I don't feel safe. Doesn't mean that I haven't got some of the things we're talking about here, right? That impacts my own ability to not have overwhelm and not think rationally. Okay. So I want to just show that this impacts every person, no matter how you are. But fundamentally, when you're around people that really impact your kind of your outlook on life, it can hold you back from working on the things that can help you to embody safety. And that embodiment of safety is is all about the trauma, isn't it? Because and I think this will really be great. Kind of, we want to dive into what trauma actually is, because I think people do not understand trauma. They think of trauma as a bus has run you over, you've gone into trauma, you're in cardiac arrest, or you have to have something really massive in your life, and that is what creates post-traumatic stress, PT. What is it? My brain's gone blank again.
PTSD, post-traumatic stress
PTSD.
disorder.
We know I've had a trauma, and we know that this part of my brain has been impacted, right? And that safety is really, really important. So the people that you hang around can really impact how safe you feel just naturally, but then it goes so much deeper than that. If you are not feeling safe and secure in your life and in your environment, I love thinking about how the mind works. The mind is fear-based. It's looking for two things normally: threats and rewards. It's primal, and it focuses on the threats because it wants to keep you safe. So if it doesn't feel safe, that's when naturally you start to feel that overwhelm, and we go into the trauma response, right? Tell me a little bit more about how that works so that we can really understand why, when we're not feeling safe, and that could be something super minor, it creates that overwhelm, and then we just stop being rational. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, when we don't feel safe, when we feel that we are potentially in danger, the hormonal system within our body physically alters. So the hormonal system runs your body and your temple. And when you are in a position whereby you are in fight or flight, you're waiting to have to fight, or you're waiting to have to leg it, it stops your body functioning on a day-to-day basis. It stops your metabolism working correctly because it's like, well, hang on a minute, we don't need to worry about that right now because there's an impending disaster right round the corner that I've got to be prepared for. So there are so many elements to how a traumatic event can affect us physically, on top of all of the psychological issues that it can cause. But I think maybe a starting point is exactly that. Trauma is not what happens to you. Trauma is how your body, your mind, and your soul respond to what happens to you. So it's really, really deeply personal, and it's different for everyone. There are no two people that will experience the same situation, that same potential trauma in the same way. So even if they go through similar events, the response, the reactions of each individual is different. And like you say, it's not just a life-threatening event. It can be any experience that overwhelms your capacity to cope. So that's the key thing here. Anything that overwhelms your capacity to cope, that leaves you feeling unsafe, helpless, disconnected, leaves us to the term trauma. So it is a nervous system reaction, and it is distressing. It is disturbing on us in all angles. And the trauma isn't what happens to you, but it's that imprint that is left. So there are so many different ways to think of trauma, and there are so many different types of trauma. So we have acute trauma, we have chronic trauma, we have complex traumas. So acute trauma is a single event, like that could be potentially be an assault or a car accident or an argument. It could be that, it goes from all ends of the spectrum. Not, it's different for everybody. A chronic trauma is where you are repeatedly exposed to distress, such as ongoing abuse or ongoing neglect. Complex trauma, on the other hand, is where there have been different sequences and different combinations of chronic exposures. These are, complex trauma often has an element that is tied to a relationship, which is why it's so important as a conversation.
Yeah.
And where there are different layers, where multiple things have occurred in one's lifetime. So that's where things get more complicated, and that layering up of the body, having so many different issues to guard itself against becomes, an issue.
Wow. Every time I speak to you about this, I learn something even more because I think I understand. And then I speak to you and I'm like, wow. And I do understand. Like, I'm always learning. Like, we know our knowledge is always building. I was telling you I was doing belly dance. I know this is a tangent again. This is me elphisms here, right? I was doing belly dancing last night and you said, just freaking do your belly dancing because I'm like, but it's not good. I'm my two left and I've sent you my video. And it's that layering of knowledge. So I did my first assignment and I can do one sequence, but my mind is still learning. I still don't know it all. And this is the thing, but I do know some belly dance. I know the hip snaps and things like that. And the feedback that I got from Meher, which was confirmation, was amazing. Do this next time. And I can layer on that and then I'll keep building it. And this is what this is all about. This is why we need to have these conversations, not just once in a lifetime, but every quarter and then repeatedly all the time, because the more knowledge that we can have to understand what is happening to us, because do you know what? And this is the thing, I'm just going to put it out there. No one else cares about your trauma because we all fundamentally care about ourselves. And
Mhm.
so we have to own our own experiences and our own embodiment so that we can really fill that cup up, because often we think that everyone else is thinking about us, but we fundamentally, the human body is designed to think about itself. And I feel like the more that we can really take ownership of our own wealth and health, the better. And what's coming up from you, and you just explained all of that, it just really made me realize that most people listening to this probably at complex stage, probably
Mhm.
at the complex stage. And that's why you are probably in that complete overwhelm stage and you're not thinking often rationally and you can't cope with even the simplest of things and you feel then like a complete failure. It's like, I've gone through my whole life and I could deal with this a year ago. Now I can't even deal with literally something simple. And it's maybe because you've got to that stage of complex, the acute, the chronic, and those layerings has built up. And what I want to say is the word that I wrote down in all of this is it's invisible. People can't see what's going on inside of you, and that can make you feel really, really alone.
That is exactly that, completely it. But on top of that, it's also usually invisible to the human that it's affected.
Yeah.
And you're not aware because it builds up. And so every time there's a small percentage of a change, that accumulative effect, you don't notice the difference. It's the same, when you say, oh, I've lost loads of weight. And people around you go, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then people that haven't seen you for ages go, oh my word, that's like such a drastic change. Because the accumulation over time is such a small stage change that you don't notice. And that is the issue when things layer and layer and layer. But it's the same thing, especially business owners. Okay. So when you get stressed, that exposure to that stress becomes chronic over a long period of time. That is traumatic on the human system. So that is one of the chronic levels. And then if you layer that up with an issue of something that has been acute, and it instantly becomes complex.
Yeah. So, I look at it from some of the things that have happened in my life, right? I'm so honest and open about sharing my own journey. So, I had an acute trauma when I was a child, when my mum and dad separated, right? And I was removed from my family home and dropped into a home with a family that I didn't even know. No one had a conversation with me about it, right? That was an acute trauma. It was
Yeah.
boom, what is going on? And then I fell into chronic trauma because I experienced every
Mm-hmm.
single day a life that was really, really not what I wanted, not happy. And that chronic trauma sort of went through me in my childhood until I was able to leave. Until I was able to leave. And I did leave. I left home about 15, moved in with a boyfriend, family pretty much, and lived with my dad. And then I did go to I went to uni at the age of 18 and I never looked back. And so
Yeah.
that's what created that safety for me. I dropped then back into safety, but I'd had probably the acute and the chronic. Then I had other things happen in my life
Well,
that
you go out
caused it,
looking for it and
right?
you create your element of safety. So you
Yeah.
felt unsafe in one environment. So what happens is you go and you look for that safety and you look for what, why did you feel unsafe? What the body will instantly say, what did I do that made me unsafe? It doesn't say, what did everyone else do? We do now when we look back at it. But at the time,
Yeah.
in the subconscious, it's like, what did I do? What do I need to correct in the way that I am to make myself safe? Because I can control my actions. So therefore, we become people pleasers and we become
Yeah.
all of these things to make everyone else happy because then they give us what we need. Then we feel safe because we've enabled them to make us safe.
Which is why I
And
moved
that's
in.
the scary
Which is why I
thing.
moved in with my boyfriend and my dad, because the men aspect in my life was what was missing in my safety. And that's what I felt was I was missing. I don't know. I've done a lot of work on this, and it's really for me this year, because then I had another acute trauma in November that led me to 12 months of chronic, which led to the complex, which I'm a complex person. And only over the last 4 weeks have I found the headspace for me to be able to work on my traumas once and for all. And it's been really incredible. And that's what I want to say. If someone's listening to the show and they're thinking, right, whether whatever degree you are, it doesn't matter if you are just in burnout in your, I say just in burnout in your business and you are just feeling overwhelmed. It hasn't been as life changing as mine has in terms of my situation, right? It's all that personal kind of personal experience of it. If you're listening to this, you can transform in a couple of weeks with the work that Lauren does and the work that energy healers do when we start working on this, because it's yes, it's a longer journey often in the bigger picture, but you can make some significant shifts to get to drop into safety. And that's why safety, we talked about this is why sometimes the safety aspect is the first thing that we need to feel. And it might be just the embodiment of feeling safe, feeling heard, feeling that somebody gets you for the first time and that you're seeing you are seeing you, and you're seeing why you are in this place, right?
No, absolutely. And it's just really important to really get to understand that depending on your circumstances and your environment, the same incident has a different level of effect on each person. So
Mm.
as a child, the same reactive response in your body from your home life might have had that effect on your body may have happened to someone else if they fell off their bike and scraped their knee. It has no relevance to
Wow.
any other human
Yeah.
as to what the incident or the circumstances are. Everyone is unique in their level of tolerance and resilience, and that's another important conversation around this is all of these elements do build up and create resilience. You aren't born with resilience. It's like trust. You have to earn it. You have to earn your resilience when you've walked through the mud a million times with and without your shoes on. Um, and I think that, it's a really important thing that, we have to be aware of. So if you're listening to this, or if you know my story, we're not going into it today. You can find that. Click on one of the links. You can find that elsewhere. But you don't need to have the situations and the circumstances that I've been through or that Emma has been through to struggle to have the symptoms of trauma. It can be something small, but in your personal circumstances, the outcome effects on your being can be similar, up to the same extent. There is no likeness between any of us. Some people will have hypervigilance and always be on edge, okay? Other people will get emotional numbness and feel really detached in circumstances. Other people will get flashbacks and intrusive memories. This is the one people think, oh, if you get that, you've got PTSD, or if you don't have that, you haven't got PTSD. Wrong. Or it could be simple physical symptoms like a headache or some chronic pain or digestive issues. They can also be symptoms of emotional, physical symptoms of trauma, the effect and the impact it has on you and your being. So it does take time to be able to understand the root cause. And all of these elements, all of these situations that give us this undesirable outcome, um, they're all they're all circumstances that have rewired the brain. For example, the amygdala, the part of your brain that's responsible for your threat detection, that becomes hyperactive. While the prefrontal cortex, which manages rational thinking, can weaken in its ability to process.
Yeah. And then you become, what do they call you? Oh, you're unhinged. Like that.
Unhinged from what?
Something like that. Yeah. I've had that, or unbalanced or whatever. And one of the biggest things that we strive for in life is balance. I think when we have balance and we're able to manage our emotions, right? And when we're able to be rational and deal with life's ups and downs, because life's a beautiful roller coaster when we learn to love the ups and downs and the ebbs and flows and realize that. And I love what you said about this, right? You go through life and you build your own resilience. I've been through the SH1T because it's made me who I am today. It's made me really, really soft at times and care so much. But my amygdala, I didn't even know that. I'm always learning these beautiful words of the brain that you shared with me, has been heightened in the sensitivity. And I can see that in certain circumstances. It's usually certain people that will be triggering the amygdala. I don't know if that's something, a reason. I don't understand that why, but I notice now there are certain situations that can be. And so I've been removing myself from situations whilst I calm my nervous system down and work on this so that this rational part of my brain can grow again. And I keep saying to you, Lauren, it's funny when we'll be drinking our vanilla matcha in the plant cafe, plant bar, and I'll be going, is it ever going to come back?
Is it
And
going to
then
grow?
is it ever going to grow back? I'm sorry, I do like to make lightheartedness of these things because we have to love life and find the joys and the pleasures in everything.
I don't think it's lightheartedness. It's just the reality of the conversation around it at home. It's, we don't have to talk textbook all the time because who's that going to help? All right, that things like that might help me. I'm a nerd, but I think, I'm pretty good at taking that textbook, reading it,
Massive
and
nerd.
being able to regurgitate it in such a way that people can visualize and have a softer understanding of what the parts they need. So like when we have our conversations, I don't necessarily give you all the tech and the science unless we're in one of those chats. But you're able to understand and have some reasoning behind what's happening in your day-to-day life, because that the understanding is so important.
Mm.
This is the issue when Western medicine, they'll just go, oh, take a tablet for it. It doesn't go to a root cause. It doesn't solve anything. It just hides and covers up the symptoms.
Yeah. I'm
Symptoms
going to
aren't
be
the
super
problem.
honest
Root
here,
cause is the
Raw.
problem.
A couple of weeks ago, I came to you because I was in a really challenged place. And I said to you, I'm feeling really down. I'm getting really fed up. I feel like, because I was in the midst of peeling back a big trauma. And I had to deal with a lot of really hard personal things in my life. Now, this is very, very personal. And I said, do you know, I thought about it. Shall I go to the doctors and get something to help me? I was like, I don't want to because I know that when you take things, it affects your hormonal imbalance. And I was working really hard on it. And I committed myself to, because I'm not against anything that anyone needs to do to help them to get through periods of time. And I do believe that's why the GPs and doctors should be there for that time when you really do need support. But for me, it was that conversation around what can I do over the next 8 weeks to rebuild my resilience in this time to come back to my normal of that sunshine, because I was not in the sunshine at that time. I was in a cloud. Okay. And by the way, it's okay to be in a cloud sometimes because we have to go through these moments of like depression. Okay. And I remember asking you about that, and you gave me some incredible advice really about my nutrition and what to do to help me to create some nutritional balance, because these are some of the pillars, around why you're so incredible, why you provide that full 360-degree look on the whole human. And we talked about making sure that I was eating a high amount of protein and some of the things that I was doing and how to create some of the things that would really help my happy hormones, if you like, to come up during this time of rebuilding. And that was a couple of weeks ago, and look at me today, okay? And that cloud ebbs and flows in, right? As it does, because we're working on these things, when we go through a hard time. Um, but I really believe that sticking that plaster on it and the modern medicine is one of the biggest problems, because what we're doing a lot of the time when we take pills is we're just putting a plaster on the wound, on the trauma.
Sometimes it's a case of things are unbearably hard and you need some support to get yourself on the right track.
Mm.
So if you need that support because you've not meant, you weren't aware of your situation until later on down the line, medicine is an incredible thing. Okay. But though, medication in that sense can be taken as a short prescription to
Yeah.
allow you to say, oh, I can breathe right now. What do I need to do? What I often struggle with myself is when people say, oh, yeah, I've been on this. Yeah, 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 for about 10 years. I'm like, what? Like, you lose the attachment to yourself. I mean, who even are you?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what really worries me in those situations where people are consistently on some medication. And we also know that, even like things like, oh, this is a different conversation, another day, like, when you take medications, they affect your internal biological system.
Yeah.
Okay. One set of antibiotics decreases your immune system by like 24%. That's just
Yeah.
one step within a year.
And that goes back to a trauma for me, Lauren. So when I had Harry in 2018, he got stuck. They had to remove him from me when and not to give it too much information, they had to remove him from not from the usual section, emergency section, from below. He was removed from
Was
me.
he forceps?
No, he was cut out.
Oh, okay.
It was
Sorry.
very, no, it's okay. I don't have any issues talking about it. He was removed. It was like it was life or death for both of us. At that stage, so I had that trauma, and I then had a huge dose of antibiotics because we both had infections, right? He had the most traumatic entrance into the world. So did I. But that's bound us as well. Okay, there's always two sides to some of these things. It was beautiful, but it was equally an incredible trauma that at that time, nobody at that time gave me the trauma support. Go back to work, get on with it, get on with your baby. Maybe you've got a bit of postnatal depression. No, I didn't. I was so happy with my baby. It was the best thing. I'd had that. I had an acute trauma, and then I'd been given a load of antibiotics that stopped my hormonal ability to recover. And then I had a series of other things happen, which were led to chronic trauma. And it was interesting again to have that cycle of traumas in my life that were quite profound. That at the time, I just got on with it. I did what I always did, business mummy head,
Yeah,
right?
well, the thing that happens there is even when you consciously try to, in this, the psychological state, and to resolve and move on from a traumatic event or events, your body still holds on to it. And
Yeah.
this is why people with unresolved trauma get those triggers. So it might be a sound, it might be a smell, it might be a situation that can reignite a feeling because your body remembers,
Mhm.
right? And it's stored, and that tension, like in your hips, which is why we use things like TRE, trauma release
Thinking
exercises,
about that. Mhm.
because, if you imagine a wild animal on a chase or a wild animal being chased, at the end of that, they close their cycle of release with a ding, and they shake it out
Shake it
because the
out.
body's holding the tension and it needs to be thrown away. We don't do that. So we have to find ways to enable that to happen. And TRE is a way of doing that because, in Dr. Bessel van der Kolk,
Wonderful.
Van der Kolk. I always get one of it around the wrong way. He's got a book, The Body Keeps the Score, and it's one of the most widely read books. And if you haven't read that, I would urge you all to go and read it. It's a fantastic book, and it explains it really, really well if you want to understand it to a deeper level.
Mm.
But you hold on to that. And when we're looking to heal trauma, it's not always something that happens right away. Sometimes it has to happen a later date. But at any point, please, anyone that's listening here, it doesn't define you. Okay. Your brain, your body, your spirit have got incredible. Sorry, Dot is making an appearance here. You have incredible capacity to heal.
Hello, Dottie. Oh, Rose will be so jealous. She loves Dottie.
So when we think about using techniques such as breath work, somatic experiencing, or some of you may know about EMDR, eye movement desensitization. What is wrong with my language today? Desensitization and reprocessing, or brain spotting, mindfulness practices that all of these can help on the release of the trauma that has been stored in the body.
Mm.
I often use breath work because it gives everyone a tool to regulate their nervous system that they can take away. And I teach people to find that feeling of safety when they are in control that they can do at any time. Because when the body feels safe, it is only then that you can start to let let go. You can, that grip on you and, with the trauma can start to release. So then we go back around to that word safety.
Yeah.
And if we can have ways where people can do it for themselves, one of the things is people say, oh, like, oh, Lauren, have you got space? I'm like, yeah, but I've generally always got space to see people because I don't hold on to people. I like to teach people what they need to do for them so they can go away and be empowered and do it for themselves. Now, even when I was PTing, it's like, no, why would you want someone for more than 6 months? I need to teach them what they need to know so they can go away and do it. They want, otherwise they then just move on to a whole new system of relying and the attachment to me, which is unnecessary.
Attachment. Yeah.
But getting to the root is often difficult. It is a struggle, whether it comes up as a chronic illness, whether it's an addiction, anxiety, or the feeling of unworthiness. It's so important to understand the root causes of this, because when we understand, we are giving ourselves the ability to heal for ourselves. It also enables us to better give compassion to others who might be stuck in their own trauma responses. So much of this work, because I truly believe that everyone is struggling with a sense of trauma. You hold 7 generations worth of trauma at a cellular level. So
Wow.
traumas from your parents, your great grandparents, your great great grandparents, your great 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 great, all 7 generations worth. You hold that at a cellular level. Okay. So to some degree, we are all, and the world that we live in right now, we know that unless we get a grasp on handling the release of trauma in the body and feeling safe, it will be passed on to the next generations at such a strong level. So, our mission here is to help people be healthy and be wealthy and understand all of these things that are a part of that. Trauma is absolutely a part of being wealthy and healthy because we all have it to a certain degree, some of us more extreme than others.
Wow. Wow. I mean, you've just really touched on what this whole first episode for me was about, because we were thinking, should we talk about soma? Should we touch on some of these modalities? But it was really the perfect place to start, because understanding what trauma is really at the heart of how you can really embody wealth and health. Because and that, when I'm doing the 8-step framework, I'm touching this on a really high level perspective of how the brain works. I call it the wealth cycle of your emotions, your feelings, your thoughts, and your actions, and that cycle. And you're stuck in that loop of never doing what you want to do to build wealth, right? And to build that future you and to embody and live a life you love today. And it keeps you stuck. So at that kind of surface level approach, trying to look at how the mind works is such a great start. But then when you go deeper into it, it's understanding trauma is so important, because what you've just said is it's affecting every single person on this planet. Nobody is immune to it, but it's our responsibility now as that generation that is standing up and saying, okay, yes, medicine's there. Great. Thank you very much. But I am taking sovereignty and ownership of my wealth and my health. And the first part of that, or one of the first parts of that, and I really believe that, is understanding myself at a really deep level and owning what it is that my body has taken score of, what's happened to me. Often, and this is the thing I think as well, we get attachment to the story. And that attachment to the story then holds us in victim mode. So I think it's really important that we recognize that we do have a story. We don't have to go and dig back 7 generations. It's understanding that whatever we are experiencing in this present moment, if we're overwhelmed and not thinking rationally, that we can, through really beautiful practices, release the trauma through breath work. I've done TRE, I've done breath work. I haven't done EMDR or brain spotting. And I know that Soma is something that I'm loving. I'm going to be learning with you on this beautiful journey as well. But, breath work and TRE has been utterly transformational for me, before I went through my fresh wave of trauma this year, because I'd been practicing that regularly. So some of these really simple techniques that Lauren's talking about is things that you can access so easily, you know, and can start to do for yourself in your own home because the breath is free. We just don't know how to breathe a lot of the time. And I love learning about all of these different things. So I think that is a beautiful place to kind of end today's talk is to give people that this knowledge of what it is that maybe they are experiencing overwhelm and irrational choices and feeling that guilt and shame, maybe, because then it triggers that in ourselves, that there is a beautiful way forwards with us, whether they, want to learn more from you, Lauren. And it's just incredible that you have given up your time to be here because you do have space. You've created space by embodying everything that you believe in, because what you do, you live by. And that's what
I do.
makes you a really special, unique human being on this planet. So, just to close out today, what lasting thought can we take from, what we've learned about trauma today? What do you want to leave the guys with just to think about as we come back maybe to go deeper into relationships next time?
Yeah, I'd like to invite everyone to spend a little time with themselves and not to feel lonely when they do that, because it's such an important factor to that safety when you can spend time with yourself. So just practice, add on a minute each day of more and more time you can spend with yourself, and really sit within and feel, body scan, start with your toes, finish at the top of your head, section by section, just really feel into how you feel, and that's physically and emotionally. And I think that once you start to have that awareness of self,
Mm,
other things will become easier to acknowledge.
I love that. I love that. I think having gone through this recently, I'm learning to be comfortable alone in my own company, literally. And we distract ourselves. We distract ourselves when we're in that aloneness. I'm just going to put the radio on. Don't put the radio on. Be silent.
Mm.
Be silent. Be with yourself. And when those intrusive thoughts come in, sit with it. Start to feel the uncomfortableness of yourself, what's coming in, notice it. And then the breath work is so powerful to coming back into your body. If you can just breathe deeply and do a body scan, it's what an amazing way to think about this and building that up over the next few weeks, every day, spending just another minute with yourself, just another minute with yourself is going to be transformative. I love that.
Thank you so
Thank you, my
much.
love. Thank you so much for giving up your time and coming onto the Wealth Rebel show. We will see you at the next quarterly installment. We will dive deeper into this topic of wealth and health and relationships. Namaste.
100%. Oh, namaste. Thank you.
Oh, I love it. Hopefully, I've captured all hopefully my recording works.
It says it's recording,
Yeah, it
so
said it was recording. Oh, did I stop it?
no, it's still recording.